Let me tell you a couple of stories to make my point. I like to tell stories. Back in the 70s, before I moved to Washington, my office was in Baton Rouge, and we did most of the political work in the state. My firm did. Big political campaigns, governor's races as such. But I was constantly being called by East Coast consultants who wanted to get their foot in this rich Louisiana political door. Every day or so, I was called by a guy from New York named Dick Morris, and he wanted to poll for my candidates. And he was a wonderful salesman, and we developed one of those telephone friendships. Finally, I agreed for him to come to Baton Rouge and make a presentation. The day he arrived, I was in my office listening to Tannhauser, a Wagner opera, something I did most afternoons after the staff had gone home and the day was winding down. When he came in, I had my feet propped up on the desk, probably listening to the Pilgrim's Chorus, I'm not sure. He was incredulous. He said, quote, "I didn't know Southerners listened to opera." "Yes, Dick," I said, "I can even read without moving my lips." Dick had grown up overlooking Central Park. His father was a well-known real estate attorney, and his mother a publisher. In our telephone conversations, he'd already decided I was stupid because I have this pronounced East Texas accent. He knew the smart people didn't have accents. He struggled with the fact that even though I'd gone to Northwestern and LSU, I could read and write. I once represented Congressman Gillis Long. He's been deceased for quite a while, but he was quite a character. After he ran unsuccessfully for governor against John McKithen, he lost his congressional seat to Speedy Long. So he was out of Congress for several years and became an investment banker. He told me, "Son, when I go to those big New York banks, I dial up my accent and they think I'm dumb. That way I take all their money instead of just a little of it." So I was sort of a lab rat for Dick Morris to learn about Southerners. But he liked my work, and one day invited me to meet one of his Southern clients, a governor. He thought that perhaps we spoke the same language and could get along. So I met Dick in Little Rock at the governor's mansion and was introduced to Governor Bill Clinton. We spent an afternoon drinking coffee, drinking hot chocolate, eating chocolate chip cookies hot from the kitchen. Whenever Chelsea, his daughter, came in the afternoons, there were always chocolate chip cookies waiting. The cook will always manage to have them coming just out of the oven as she came in the door. And everything in the mansion stopped for Chelsea. But it didn't take me long to realize that Clinton was an exceptional intellect, one of the greatest intellectual minds or forces I'd ever met. In fact, we discussed current events, books. I couldn't find a field that he probably didn't know more than I about. Later, people said he was the best political consultant in America. I tend to agree with that. But we got along, and he did hire me, and I did 4 governor's races for him. But that day, as we left the governor's mansion, going down the front steps, I turned to Dick. I said, "That man will be president." Dick very condescendingly said, "Oh, come on. Did you hear that accent?" He said, "Besides that, he's from a backwater southern state. He can never be president." Well, but I moved to Washington, and Dick moved to the Republican Party. Now he's an on-the-air analyst for Fox News, and he's still not fair and balanced. In Washington, I ran into the wall of intellectual and cultural intolerance. Who is the guy, this guy, with a funny accent from those state schools? And as Gillis Long said, I had to do battle, and I took all of their business and still a little of it. At first, I was intimidated, and I tried to do it their way. I would put on my tux and go to parties where one eats a tiny square of cheese and holds a glass of wine in the other hand. I would go those places where one goes to network, but I was miserable. Port Arthur, Texas didn't train me for this kind of war. Pardon me. I fought with my fist in the dirt, not on Persian rugs and Georgetown mansions. So I made new rules. I'd put on my tux, pay honor to the host and hostess at the door, search out the kitchen, go out the back door to the alley, circle around, get in my car, and leave. They didn't know I was gone. That's the way Washington works. Finally, in one of those marriage truces one makes with Sandy, I agreed to stay at a party at least as long as it took her to get ready for the party. But anyway, for years, I beat them. By 1984, I had the largest political consulting firm in America. I was relentless, but I had to be. And many said I walked around with a chip on my shoulder. I did, still do. And I want you to put a chip on your shoulder. Like my 13 students, you're only limited by your efforts. Not by race, not by accent, not by geography, and certainly not by NSU. Now my advice. That's why I think I'm supposed to be here. When you go into the world, here's how you beat them without skinning your knuckles. Work. It's been said that the only place success comes before work is in the dictionary. Get to the office 15 minutes earlier than anyone. Leave 30 minutes after the pack heads for the bar. Attend meetings knowing more about the subject than anybody at the table. That's how I learned to fight. And, at least though my son says I lost interest, I won. So keep this chip on your shoulder. Just learn how to counterpunch with your mind, with your sweat. It means more satisfaction, higher rewards, and less blood. Once again, I want to thank all of you for teaching me so much. I hope I get to see my journalism students while I'm here. I want to thank Dr. Webb and all those who brought me to this place, and I'm humbled by the honor. Thank you.